Let me get this out there right away. I love Christian Wood. I would argue as much as anybody on this planet. I fell in love with his game in February of last year when he was putting up skillful 2010 performances nightly and nobody seemed to care, and have been banging the drum for him ever since. But there have been times when I've questioned his impact on winning, when I've wondered if, although he's a joy to watch, he might slip into more of the John Collins tier, tremendously skilled offensively, but not unicornish there, and, while certainly not as troubled as Collins on the defensive end, not impactful enough there to drive winning. I believe those questions, as briefly as they may have wandered through my mind, have been answered by Wood's play this season and the Rockets' 0-6 stretch as he's been sidelined with an ankle injury. So today, let's get into why the Rockets need Christian Wood and why they can absolutely still be a playoff caliber team with him out there. Wood has been phenomenal offensively this season, averaging 22 points per game on 56% from the field and 42% from three on 4.5 attempts per game. But he's particularly essential to a Rockets offense that has collapsed without him, ranking dead last in offensive rating in their 6-game skid in which he hasn't been on the floor. There's a couple pitfalls that this Rockets offense is very susceptible to. First off, they play the third most isolation in basketball and make the third least passes per game. With a number of capable ball handlers and one-on-one creators, sometimes their offense can devolve into several score-first guys, be it Wall, Oladipo, or Gordon, simply hammering the ball into the ground and forcing shots out of isolation or the pick and roll, causing things to stagnate elsewhere. Wood is a cure to this, a release valve. He's an incredibly astute off-ball mover, constantly gravitating to soft spots in the defense. The dude really just has a knack for getting to open space and is accordingly in the 93rd percentile as a cutter this season. With a massive catch radius, he's an elite lob threat as well, and also possesses a special aggression inside, which makes him one of the league's best finishers. Wood wants to dunk everything, and it's tough to deny when he gets that mentality, so he's finishing a ridiculous 85% of his attempts at the rim this year. But find him anywhere in the paint, and he can throw up a floater, which he's at 45% of this year. Need a bailout three, and Wood can deliver as a 42% shooter from deep. He can also be effective on cleanup duty with a solid second jump and his elite finishing. Wood's value as a roll man, where he currently ranks in the 74th percentile but finished in the 95th percentile last year, is tremendous as well. Wood's a master of two things as a screener, taking up a ton of space and slipping out quickly. He sets an abnormally wide base, forcing defenders to often lag behind trying to get around him, and frequently affording him the privilege of setting great screens without having to make full contact, which can allow him to get out quickly and put the defender even further back on his heels. Then, of course, he's a threat on each level as a scorer. Big men struggle to stick with him in space, especially once he gets a step. He's lethal as a pick and popper, but is also excellent at attacking closeouts, where he can get into the lane for his floater, or, more often than not when he has a head of steam, glide all the way to the bucket for a forceful dunk. Wood is also impeccable at taking Houston out of the monotony of ISO-heavy, half-court offense with his transition ability. With Wall at the helm, Houston loves to push the tempo, and there's no better running mate than a crazy quick big dude who can handle, catch lobs, and shoot, and Wood is therefore ranked in the 76th percentile as a transition finisher this season. This incredible versatility and ability to score quickly makes Wood an elite bailout option for otherwise questionable offense, which is incredibly valuable, particularly in Houston. He can attack off the bounce, but only does so selectively and doesn't need to. He could try to post up more and demand touches there, but he doesn't. He epitomizes letting the game come to him, an essential skill set in a system filled with guys who can tend to force things. That value is reflected by the fact that the Rockets are a whopping 8.6 points per 100 possessions, better with him on the floor than off it. Another pitfall of the Rockets' offense is its tendency to become incredibly jump shot heavy, particularly from beyond the arc. The perimeter-centric Rockets take the third most threes in basketball, but they don't shoot them particularly well, having made just 34.1% of them this season, good for 27th in basketball. With DeMarcus Cousins as their only big man, that problem is only exacerbated, and they are desperately lacking an interior presence on offense right now. I love Boogie, and at his best, he was the league's best offensive big man, but he's completely devoid of the athleticism that once helped make him special, and is basically just a mediocre floor spacer at this point. 54% of Boogie's shots come from deep, and he only makes 32.7% of them. With him on the floor, the Rockets' offense becomes predictable and monotonous, with no real counters if their outside shots aren't falling. Wood changes that for all the reasons we talked about earlier, but even as a floor spacer, he has more value. All Boogie wants to do is shoot, but some teams will just let him because he's not great at it. Wood can't be left alone out there, and his gravity as a floor spacer does wonders for Wall, who has found himself able to attack clean paints as much this year as any year in his career. The Rockets' offense may never be elite, but Wood is the man with the potential to save it from the league worst status it's been at for the last 6 games with him out, and is far and away the most unique weapon they have. When Christian Wood got hurt, the Rockets ranked second in defensive rating. Over the last 6 games, they've ranked 22nd. The reason for this is pretty simple. Wood is a very good, borderline elite rim protector. He's holding opposing players 9.3% below their typical field goal percentage inside of 6 feet, an almost identical number to that of Joel Embiid. He's incredibly reactive on that end, quick to recover, good at sticking with guards within 15 feet or so, and with a 7'3" wingspan and springy verticality, can get up to swat shots. He also scraps on the glass, has solid hands, and just seems to care more this year than last year. With some really good defenders on the perimeter and with a less switch-heavy scheme in place than in years past, Wood's job and impact on defense has therefore been pretty straightforward. With Cousins on the floor, you lose all that value, as players shoot 8% better around the rim against Boogie than they do Wood. Wood still has room to grow as a defender in space and has had some issues out on the perimeter, but he's certainly still a preferable option there to the lumbering Cousins, and he has the potential to maybe even excel there down the road as well. Regardless, he's essential as a rim protector, and it's something that the Rockets are desperately missing right now and will need to return to their status as an elite team defense. There is no doubt in my mind that the Rockets are better than their 11-16 record. Playing without your most important player on arguably both ends is no easy task, and they've shown that. When Wood comes back, he'll be hungry, as will the team as a whole, and they'll be dangerous. To those of you who have made it thus far, thank you so much for watching, and I really hope that you have enjoyed. If you want more content like this, you can check out my podcast, Nerd Sesh, which I do with my friend Logan Camden. We do a couple of NBA shows a week on Wednesdays and Saturdays, and we also do a show on sports history on Mondays. So I will link the podcast in the description for any of you who may have any interest. Other than that, thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed.